What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks, presented by Grifols Plasma Donation Centers. DJ Buck back together with you on an NFL trade deadline day. Buck, I still feel like football is kind of behind the NBA and Major League Baseball in terms of the excitement here at a trade deadline time.
You know, I would agree with you, but I feel like we've seen more activity this year than in previous years. More notable names being traded, more speculation about which guys will get moved. And in division trading, which was something that was always a no-no back in our day when we were scouting, we're seeing more of that. To me, it's interesting because we talked about the younger generation taking over as decision makers, general managers, and those things. We're seeing more activity, but you're right. It doesn't have the same buzz of the NBA and the MLB trade deadlines, but it's a lot of fun though.
Yeah, no, we do have a couple trades, and again, we're keeping an eye kind of on social media as we're recording this to see if anything else comes down. But you mentioned the trade inside the division. That's something the Lions and the Vikings are making a habit of doing. Remember, they had that trade with the Lions coming up to the 12th pick to take Jamison Williams in last year's draft. Now they end up sending T.J. Hockenson to the Vikings, and this is what Minnesota gets. They Minnesota sends a second-round pick in 23, a third-round pick in 24. For Hockenson, a fourth-round pick in 23 and a 2024 conditional fourth-round pick. So really, they're pick swaps. It's just kind of moving up in the draft here. So the same number of picks the Vikings are going to have after this is all said and done, basically just trading down twice and getting one of the better young tight ends in the NFL, T.J. Hockenson.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I can't really understand this. I can't understand if I'm the Detroit Lions and I am trying to build a team. I understand like the value of kind of building up the war chest with draft picks, but I don't like moving good players. And T.J. Hockenson, by all accounts, is a good player. And yeah, I know about the contract and all the other stuff that you have to do when he's been a Pro Bowl player and those things. But when you're a team that only has one win on your ledger, the last thing that you want to do, not only for the morale of the team in the locker room, but for the city, is to give away a good player. And I can say this, I don't believe that the Lions fully maximize his talent as a outstanding blocker and receiver, and I expect that to happen in Minnesota. Man, I just don't like helping my opponent, my division rival, become a better team, because this makes the Minnesota Vikings much better on offense because you have another guy who can take attention away from Justin Jefferson. I don't like the move for Detroit, but I love it for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, think about Minnesota Vikings. Their tight end, Irv Smith, is going to be out, I believe, 8 to 10 weeks. So he's hurt, so they needed a tight end. Think about last year. They also had Tyler Conklin, who played well for them last year. Had 61 grabs for 593 yards, 3 touchdowns. He leaves in free agency. He goes to the Jets. So there was definitely a screaming need. I don't know, they could have done better than getting T.J. Hockenson. The one thing I'll just say, though, Buck, talking about it from the Lions standpoint, I think we had a similar discussion when you looked at the Jets where they were when they traded Jamal Adams. Obviously different compensation. But you look at non-premium positions, safety, tight end, and you're the Lions, and you're like, we stink on defense. Like, we are terrible. We're still able to generate some offense. We have a good offensive line, so that's in a pretty good spot here with some good pieces. But we have got to get resources to fix this defense. And tight end, even though, you can look at a playmaking tight end being an important deal, it's not viewed as one of those marquee key positions you have to fill, and maybe they were looking at that as a little bit of a luxury on a bad team.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I understand that rationale when it comes to like marquee positions versus non-marquee positions. But my thing is this: I think it's also influenced by the general manager's background as a college scouting director, where they value picks maybe more than some others would, and believing in their ability to turn those picks into players. The one thing that I will say is, I don't know like how impactful maybe a second round pick or a future third round pick or fourth round pick is going to be on a team that really needs a lot of weapons and resources right now. I know you can package those things and maybe get up and all that, but you got to remember, this guy that you're giving away was a top 10 pick. And I understand there's some depreciation when it comes to those things as a guy plays in the league and as we begin to see him. I just don't know if it was, enough return on the investment when it comes to it. And ultimately, this regime will be judged on their ability to take those picks and turn them into players, and to turn all of those players into a team that can win games. And right now, the Lions haven't been able to do so.
I also, though, I think it's a valid point to bring up. Not their guy. I mean, whether or not that's the right way to go about business, they don't think of T.J. Hockenson, who we invested an 8th overall pick in. They just say he's our current tight end, T.J. Hockenson. They have no attachment to. And I think there is something to that. When you look at new regimes coming in, they don't have that same kind of equity built up with these types of players.
No, I think you're right. Obviously, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about other picks because we saw it. Chicago jettisoning Roquan Smith and those things. We're seeing when you come in as a new leader and you haven't drafted those guys, you don't have an emotional attachment to the guys. Like, yeah, you may like them and what they do, but it's not like you're deeply invested in making sure that they play well to kind of validate your decision to draft them where you selected them. And so, yeah, there is that removal of the emotional attachment that can come when you're dealing with players. So I certainly see your side of it when you're Brad Holmes and you didn't select T.J. Hockenson number 8 overall. You just see him as tight end 1. You want to get better on the team. And so you're saying this is a piece that can help us acquire more assets that we can use down the line. I'm going to trade him because, look, I'm not in love with him like I would have been in love with him if I had drafted him on draft night.
You mentioned it there, Buck, about the other trade here. Roquan Smith is a big one. He goes to the Ravens in exchange for a 23 second-round pick and 5th-round pick and linebacker A.J. Klein. So what was your take on that one?
Man, the Baltimore Ravens continue to do what they do when it comes to sitting in the cut and waiting for valuable players to come up. And Roquan Smith, to me, is the guy, 1, who's playing really well. 2, he's exactly what the Baltimore Ravens need because their defense has not been the same since they lost playmaking linebackers. And let's be honest, it hasn't really been the same since they lost C.J. Mosley years ago because they didn't want to pay an inside linebacker, a non-marquee position in some people's minds, big money. But now you get a guy who's a dominant player. Roquan Smith is a dominant player who really was coming into his own. You can see him sack the passer. You can see him make sideline-to-sideline plays. He has coverage ability. He's a really good player. He also frees up Patrick Queen to maybe do what he does better in the middle of the defense, blitzing and running around and doing a bunch of things without the responsibilities of having to be the man. Roquan Smith is the guy, and I expect him to be the guy very, very quickly in this defense. As this defense continues to mature and as the corners get healthy with Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey beginning to get back to playing at a Pro Bowl level, Roquan Smith gives this team an opportunity to make a run. Because based on last night's events when the Browns were able to knock off the Bengals, if I'm the Ravens, I'm sitting pretty because not only do I feel like we can win this division, but I feel like we can put ourselves in a position to get a top seed to now make a run at the title. And it's because we feel like our defense is getting closer to our offense in terms of their ability to play at a high level.
Yeah, and to me, just the Baltimore Ravens, Ozzy's always believed in building it up the middle. You think about Eric DeCosta taking over. That's all he's known as the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to believe in that same exact philosophy. When I was there, you had Haloti Ngata, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, just right up the middle of that defense. That's where that thing ran. You talked about C.J. Mosley and how key a part of that defense he was when he was there. They've just always believed in that. They've always invested in that, and not a surprise at all to see this trade. The other thing that you need to remember with the Baltimore Ravens is this team leads the world in comp picks over the last 10 years. They are not active or really aggressive traditionally in free agency. They know how to play the formulas so that they end up getting these extra comp picks when guys walk. I'd be curious to see what this does mean for Patrick Queen in the future, if they would re-sign him or if they allow him to move on and collect the comp pick when it's his time, because I'd be shocked if they did not re-sign Roquan Smith after making this trade and make him kind of the centerpiece of this defense for the next few years. I want to hit
DJ,
on one
like to that point,
to this Monday night game. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Like the thing about Roquan Smith and understanding this, the Bears are paying a little over $4 million of the remaining salary on Roquan Smith's deal. So they're getting him basically for a minimum veteran player. And they also have the luxury of getting the comp pick for Roquan Smith if they're unable to sign him. And so you're right when it comes to the Ravens' ability to play the compensatory pick game. They benefit because, as you talked about, whether it's Roquan Smith or whether it's Patrick Queen, they're going to get the pick back that they gave up, and they have done a great job of drafting over the course of time. they have an ability to turn those picks into players, unlike some of the franchises that we talk about that we see try and execute these moves.
No, that's a great call. I want to just mention here real quick, and again, some trades might pop up later on in the episode, and we'll break those down. But I do feel like there's one team that has to make a move, and so far they haven't. We'll see if they do, but I feel like the Green Bay Packers have got to do something here. I mean, this is the end of the run here for Aaron Rodgers. This is the last year or two for him to be in that championship window. And, you know, Buck, when you're young and you're driving and you're trying to push it and you realize that, man, I'm running out of gas, and you say, okay, I have a long way to go to the gas station. We've all been there. But you turn the air conditioning off. You kind of just whatever I got to do to try and see if I can maybe make it to that gas station. Like, they need to pull out all the stops. This is the end of that window. Who knows when their next window is coming? It might be 20 years before they find themselves with a quarterback and a team that's championship worthy. They're close. You still look at that defense. There's some good pieces there. You've got Aaron Rodgers. This is the last 2 years. You've got to try. Whether or not it works or not, I just feel like you owe it to your team and to your fans and to your city to at least try to do something to help this team.
Well, I mean, look, I think it's fairly obvious that they don't have a number one receiver on the perimeter. And even though Romeo Doubs did a good job of playing better at the position the other night against the Buffalo Bills, they still need a marquee play. You can't count on Sammy Watkins because he's been hurt like he's been throughout most of his career. Randall Cobb is also unavailable, and he's not a number one receiver. The rest of the guys are youngsters and newbies trying to make their way. And so if you're the Green Bay Packers, even though I believe you – look, Brandon Cooks would be fine there because I think Brandon Cooks is, one, he's a speed demon still at his age. He has the ability to give them something that they don't have, someone that can take the top off the coverage. And for someone who has been traded a ton, he finds a way to go to his new destination and make an immediate impact. And so he would be a nice fit for them, and he would give them an opportunity to kind of transition while they're waiting for the young guys to develop maybe later in the year. But they need a solid number one receiver who can make the catches that are there to be made when Aaron Rodgers is looking to throw, even though I believe this team still needs to run the offense through Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. At some point, they have to have some credible weapons on the outside to be able to win games. If not, you are wasting the twilight of Aaron Rodgers' career.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to be sitting in the offseason knowing that, okay, it's over, that, you know, Rodgers is retired, and you left a couple, you know, bullets in your gun, so to speak. You didn't really try everything to try and exhaust your opportunity to maybe squeak one more championship out during that window. Because, again, you know, you can sit there and say, okay, well, we're just going to start the retooling process. There's no guarantee that's going to happen in the next decade. You know, so I don't know. I feel like they're close. They're close right now. They owe it to everybody to make a run for it. What do you think of that game last night? It wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing game. The Browns knocking off the Bengals, 32-13. Life without Jamar Chase, not too kind there for the Bengals.
No, it's not too kind for the Bengals, but I'm going to focus on the Browns first because when I was watching the game, I said to myself, what took so long? Like, what took so long for Kevin Stefanski to realize that, you know what? I should run the offense through Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb should be the focal point. Nick Chubb should get 25 or so touches. I need to give it to him in a variety of ways, whether it's I hand it to him, I give it to him in the Wildcat. However I need to get the ball to Nick Chubb should be the guy. And maybe because they didn't play on Sunday, I'm guessing that maybe Kevin Stefanski was flipping the channels and he happened to catch a glimpse of the Tennessee Titans. And he happened to see Derrick Henry touch the ball a ton. And playing with Malik Willis, who only passed the ball 10 times, he was saying, you know, maybe that recipe will work for us. We have an A-level running back. Maybe we should just try and exhaust him and give him as many carries as he can and see what it looks like. And when they did that, lo and behold, the passing game opened up. Amari Cooper's wide open catching the ball over the field. You see Donovan Peoples-Jones make plays. All of a sudden, Jacoby Brissett actually looking like a high-functioning starter. So I don't know why it took so long for the Cleveland Browns to discover that they have one of the best runners in football and that they're better when they feed him. But I would say maybe Kevin Stefanski, you stick with that plan even when Deshaun Watson comes back in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's the business card / receipt offense, right? We talked about it. This is all you need. That's your play sheet if you're the Browns. It should not be bigger than this little business card right here. That's it. It shouldn't be that hard. Turn around, and give it to that dude. That's the way to go. We tried to tell them. We tried to tell them that weeks ago, man. They're finally buying in. Look, the Bengals, Buck, don't look in. They don't look right, man.
And no, DJ, they don't look right. And I don't know if they're going to get right because I don't know if they're willing to change based on what they have. Meaning, we always talk about the first month of the season being a bit of the preseason where you're trying to figure your team out. The month of October is that discovery and then the realization, hey, here's who I thought we were going to be. We're not that. This is the team that we are. Let's start leaning into the strengths of the team. As much as the Cincinnati Bengals want to put everything on Joe Burrow, right now they don't have the ability to do that because their offensive line isn't good enough. So Zach Taylor has to look at his team and figure out how can I get the ball to my playmakers without exposing my offensive line. Because the way that the Cleveland Browns absolutely tore them up in the trenches, they cannot continue to go 5 out in a route and allow Joe Burrow to take the beating that he's taking. And so whatever that looks like, whether it's a quick rhythm passing game, whether it's more Joe Mixon running the football, they cannot allow the opponent to dictate the terms the way the Cleveland Browns are able to do it. And so it's on Zach Taylor and the staff to figure it out because what they put out last night certainly wasn't good enough to get this team back into the postseason, let alone make another postseason a title run.
Yeah, and going back to the Browns here real quick, hat tip to Amari Cooper, who's continuing to play at a very high level. They got him the football, and look, we'll see what happens when Deshaun Watson gets in there, but that's somebody whose numbers, you're going to see a lot more games like that from Amari Cooper. 5 for $131 and a touchdown. He's really been one of the more underrated receivers, which is hard to do when you're playing for the Dallas Cowboys previously, but he's a really good football player and had a nice game last night. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back, we're going to have a fascinating discussion here on pass rush, evaluating guys for the draft, college players, and how difficult it is to get to the quarterback at that level. We're going to break that down right after the break.
NFL Plus is the league's new exclusive video streaming subscription service. NFL Plus has your game day covered with live local and primetime regular season and postseason games right on your phone or tablet. NFL Plus is available in the NFL app and at NFL.com. Subscription plans start at just $4.99 a month. Fans can visit plus.nfl.com and sign up for a free trial of NFL Plus today. All right, DJ, I know you are always looking at the college game and sometimes you have some things that catch your eye. And so you put out a tweet talking about the pass rush in the college game and how quarterbacks and offensive coordinators are avoiding the big-time pass rushers by getting the ball out quick. Expand on that.
Yeah, I was talking to a coach at a big-time program, and we were talking about one of their players, and we were talking pass rush. And he brought up a great point, and something I don't know that we've talked a lot about. He just said, looking at sacks for college players now, especially if you have a premier player or a premier group, like you're a premier defense. You think about, I wrote down like Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, those teams that you're playing against. Those teams have so altered their game plan to play against those great players or those great fronts, which is they are going to bubble screen you, they're going to quick game you, they're going to move the pot, they're going to do whatever they can to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand. Now, if they don't move the football and it's a punt fest and they're not scoring points, they're fine with that. They're just trying to avoid getting their teeth kicked in and having turnovers and sacks and fumbles and all those things. So they are just getting the ball out. And so I started looking at a player I thought would be fascinating in this discussion was a guy like Will Anderson, who came into the fall. I thought he was the best player in the country last year. And he's got 6 sacks right now, Buck, but he's coming off a year where he had 17 and a half. So maybe his numbers are a little bit off pace. But when I went and looked at the PFF numbers, and we talk a lot about, win rate, pressure percentage, those things. His win rate is actually up, meaning he's beating the guy in front of him 18.2% of the time this year versus 16.6 last year. His pressure percentage is slightly down from 17.4 to 16.2. But that's somebody that in the college game, you're overmatched when you're playing against a guy like that. So you're going to come into that game with a game plan that is a Will Anderson game plan. So I just think kind of the lazy analysis or the lazy scouting of just being beholden to sack numbers right now in the college game, I think you got to get out of that mode.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be interesting because I think it'll have a ripple effect on the way that we evaluate players and maybe even the way that we prioritize players. Couple things when it comes to pass rushers. I think now we may fall back into the thing where we're looking at prototypical traits over production. Meaning, when you look at your pass rushers, you're going to look at the traits that you can assess. Maybe some of those traits are assessed in workouts, 10-yard dash, to be able to look at their physical dimensions when it comes to arm length and those things. We talked about the 3-cone and some of the various testing. Those things will factor in. You will look at the tape, obviously, and you'll begin to see, do they appear to have a toolbox that could give them an opportunity to develop into a high-end pass rusher at the next level? But it may be a little more projection, more so than a proven product at this point. The other thing, when we look at it, I think about a guy like Wink Martindale, who was the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. He's defense coordinator now for the New York Giants. And he has always prioritized corners and coverage over pass rushers because he feels like he can create the pass rush through scheming. And so now, do we see a little bit of a turn in front offices when you have the coaches and the scouts get together in terms of, hey, I don't know if I can evaluate what these pass rushes are. So how about you give me great corners where we can lock up and play sticky coverage, and then I can manufacture the pass rush with talented athletes that I put in the right situation to give them one-on-one opportunities to get up to the passer.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I've always been a front to back guy. People think about those two different philosophies. I've, always just, man, if you can just have the horses up front. I know there's teams, and Belichick has been part of that with having coverage and then building that, top to bottom. But I think you make a compelling case there. I think there's something to be said for that. In an ideal world, you have both. But I think it does make evaluating that a little trickier. I think you want to see the ability to beat the guy in front of you. I think you want to see those traits that you mentioned. Can you win with speed? Can you win with power? Even if the ball's gone. That's why, it's efficient and you can do it. But, let's just get in obvious passing situations, cut up the video that way. Every 3rd and 7 plus, I'm going to watch this guy every snap for the whole season, 3rd and 7 plus, and I'm just going to see, does he win? The ball might be gone. They might be rolling the pocket, but can he beat the guy in front of him? Does he have get off? Does he have power? Those are the things you're going to have to evaluate. And the ability to finish and get guys on the ground, maybe you're not going to see quite as much of that as we've seen in the past. It was just fascinating when he said that. He said it's never been harder to sack the quarterback in college than it is right now.
Yeah, no, it's funny, DJ, because you pointed out something that's really, really important when it comes to evaluating pass rushers. Getting the quarterback down. You came up in an era when Ben Roethlisberger was kind of like the measuring stick because of the division that you were scouting in. Pittsburgh Steelers, you had a big quarterback. Can your pass rusher, your potential pass rushing prospect, can he take Big Ben down? Because if you can't get Big Ben down, then what are we doing? And so we are going to miss out on that because we have all seen a bunch of pass rushers come into the league who are kings or the masters of the near misses. They get around the hump, but for whatever reason, they reach and grab. They can't pull the guy down. And so now it becomes a little more subjective, a little more of a projection when you're looking at it. And so what we may see are more misses at the top of the board when it comes to pass rushers because we may not have enough information to fully evaluate who the best pass rushing prospects are compared to the way that it used to be 3, 4, 5 years ago when the ball didn't come out as fast at the collegiate level.
No doubt. It's just it's a different game. It's a different time, and you got to adjust. As an evaluator, I mentioned at the top when we mentioned those two trades that we were going to keep an eye on social media and see if there's any other trades that came down. Well, I made the case. I made the argument. There is a team in the NFC North that needs to make a trade. No excuses. Go for it. Make it happen, and go get a receiver. And lo and behold, Buck, a team in the NFC North has made a trade as we speak right now for a wide receiver. We'll tell you who it is after the break. Spoiler alert, it ain't the Packers. We'll be right back. All right, Buck, I teased it. I mentioned that there was a trade. There's a receiver trade, and it involved an NFC North team. It is not the Green Bay Packers, not yet at least. We'll see if they do something before the deadline hits. You might be listening to this, and maybe they have done something at that point in time. But it's actually Chicago Bears, who have been active sellers. All of a sudden, they turn to buyers. They trade a second-round pick next year for Chase Claypool, wide receiver from the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's your immediate reaction on this one?
I really like it. I like it for a few different reasons, and it all centers around the quarterback. When you look at how the Bears have started to evolve offensively the last 3 weeks, it has been about more design quarterback runs, really leaning into the overall running game, where you are kind of building a rough and rugged team that is built on effort and toughness, running the ball, and your quarterback being able to be a big part of that. And then in the passing game, what you're doing is, I recognize Justin Fields' immense talents and potential as a quarterback, but he also has some deficiencies, and one of that is ball placement. And so what do you do with a quarterback who's inaccurate? You try and surround them with big body playmakers who can expand the strike zone for him. And so now you have N'Keal Harry, you have Chase Claypool, you have two big body receivers that can go and get the ball when it's a little wayward, while also being committed and willing to sacrifice their bodies in the run game. You have to make sure that your receivers match the philosophy of how you want to play. Chase Claypool and N'Keal Harry, they match that, and you still have Darnell Mooney, who's able to make plays over the middle of the field.
Yeah, we talk about teams finding their identity. I think that is the identity right now for the Bears. They want to be a big physical bully. That's kind of the brand of football they want to play. And Claypool can put you in a bind, because now all of a sudden you've got some quarterback run game cranked up, you've got your running backs going, and now you want to bring Claypool down in, and you want to play him kind of snug in there, Buck. And teams say, okay, well, we're going to try and match big on big, and we're going to put kind of our big nickel out there. And Claypool can then widen out and run by you. You're going to put a little corner on him outside. He comes back down. He's going to maul him, and it's going to give Justin Fields a short corner to get out the gate in the run game as well. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them. I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier when we think about where the Pittsburgh Steelers are as an organization, a team that is not used to losing like this, going to end up with a top 10 pick. And offensive line is in bad shape. We talked about the Lions, trading Hockenson so they could get resources to maybe fix their defense and get better up front. I think when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, when they look at helping Kenny Pickett develop, and we talk about the P's, the playmakers, the protection, the play caller, I think between playmakers and protection, it's protection that they need to address. You're going to get George Pickens even more targets now. He's going to be able to take some of that load that Claypool leaves behind, and I think they think that's a good thing. Still got Deontay Johnson. They feel okay about weapons. They're terrible up front of that offensive line. And you get a second-round pick, you might be in a position with that second-round pick to get one of the top 2 or 3 interior offensive linemen in the entire draft. So this is a chance for them to kind of reallocate their resources, so to speak.
Yeah, I think reallocating the resources are very important. But let me also say this about Chase Claypool and some of the other players. I don't know if those guys are true what we call Steelers. When you think about the brand and the toughness and what the Steelers represent or whatever, I don't know if those guys are doing a little showy, little flamboyant and those things. I don't know if we lost some of that during the Killer Bee era with Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, and AB and some of the other guys. But the essence of the Steelers are like a hard-nosed, gritty team. And I don't know if some of the players that are currently on the roster necessarily fit that. I think in moving Claypool out, it gives them an opportunity to reset the culture of the locker room while also beginning to fortify the protection in front of Kenny Pickett. Because Kenny Pickett is the future. You need to make sure you surround him with the right guys to get back to playing Steeler football.
No doubt. I'm still, again, I'm a little perplexed we have not seen a Brandon Cooks trade yet. I'm still thinking that's going to eventually happen. I think Houston probably has to eat some of that money, but as of right now, we do not have anything on that front to talk about. All right, let's get things rolling here. It's time for Battle at the Line, presented by Caesars Sportsbook, and this is going to be a fun discussion, Buck, because you wrote a great article on top 5 game wreckers. You can find that on NFL.com, looking at some defensive players that are just a nightmare to deal with. I'd love to know who you had number 1 on that list.
DJ, so in thinking about game wreckers, because we always talk about it, you talked about early in the episode, we talked about building it from front to back. And the toughest defenses to face are the ones that can create chaos and disruption at the point of attack. And so when thinking about the game wreckers, you're thinking about guys who not only against the pass, but against the run, they're completely disruptive, meaning they create tackles for loss, sacks, penetration, they get their hands on the football to do a lot of things. So right now, to me, the best defensive player in football is Micah Parsons. So I had him number 1 on my list. And part of the reason why he's number 1 is because he is a unicorn. Now, we throw that term around a lot about someone being one of one, but this dude legitimately is one of one. You don't see an inside linebacker who has all pro caliber sideline to sideline playmaking skills, but is also capable of being an all pro caliber defensive end. That's Micah Parsons. No matter where he aligns, he is going to absolutely wreck shop on the people that are in front of him, and he cannot be contained or neutralized. One of the reasons why the Cowboys defense has played great defense the last 2 years is because number 11 is always around the ball, and when he gets around the ball, he gets there with bad intentions. He sets the tone for this defense, which is why the Cowboys are playing really, really well.
Yeah, I don't think there's any surprises looking at the rest of your top 5 here. When you see Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, those are 2 and 3, and then at number 5, Max Crosby. Maybe for some folks, though, might be surprised at number 4 on the list, and that's Matt Judon for the Patriots. What is it about Matt Judon that makes him such a game wrecker, Buck?
You know, so it's funny, DJ, when the Patriots signed Matt Judon coming from Baltimore, I didn't really know how good Matt Judon was because we've seen so many guys come out of the Patriots system, not the Patriots, the Ravens system, who kind of benefited from the scheming that the Ravens do to create easy opportunities. Well, Matt Judon just goes to the Patriots. In his first season, he has 12.5 sacks. Right now, he has 8.5 sacks, or the last time I looked at the stat sheet, he had 8.5 sacks coming off the edge. So in 2 seasons, he has already shown an ability to be very disruptive at the line of scrimmage. Then you throw in the versatility that he displays, being able to play with his hand in the dirt from an upright position, being able to float and do some of the other things that the Patriots like to do. And then I think about the Patriots, they don't even really covet pass rushers. So for Matt Judon to be as dynamic and disruptive and dominant as he's been for the Patriots speaks volumes about his talent and the way that he has been able to kind of find his role in a Patriots defense that is really more coverage than pass rush when you think about the way Bill Belichick likes to go after the opponent.
Yeah, and forever, that had been a long held belief that, man, be careful when you sign Ravens defensive players because it's part of the culture and the system there. It kind of makes some of these guys, and if they're allowing them to leave, there's a reason for that. Might have to rethink it because right now the 2 guys tied for the league in sacks are Matt Judon and Zadarius Smith, both former Baltimore Ravens who are balling out for the Patriots and the Vikings. So interesting to see how that narrative kind of is changing over time. Great list. Again, you can go to NFL.com and you can read all about Bucky talking about those top 5 game records. Also has some interesting stuff in there on Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley as well. So NFL.com, you can find Bucky's work right there. I want to remind everybody we've got Eagles-Texans coming up Thursday Night Football. That's 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on Prime Video. That is also available on NFL Plus. It's been a fun show today as we've kind of had some real-time reaction to some of these trades. I'm sure by the time you're listening to this, there's been other moves. We will react to those on Thursday's show, so be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, you can catch all of our content. Go to NFL's YouTube channel, NFL.com, the NFL channel, and the NFL app. Appreciate you guys hanging with us and listening to us here on Move the Six, presented by Grifols Plasma Donation Centers.